Hey, Nate.
And I think he said he wants to come early.
So yeah, you gotta encourage him. We're in that house.
Please do, as we know with our film, it's strength in numbers.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely.
Made those for you, Jeff. Made those for
Thank
you.
you. Oh, that's great.
Hi, Joe. It's nice to meet you. My name's Jamie. We talked on the phone once.
Thank you.
No problem at all. Remember me later when I'm asking for an autograph.
I want one. I want one.
Great.
Hi.
Yeah.
There she is.
Oh, there's Gigi.
I don't see you guys. I don't see you guys. Where are you guys?
Yeah. 2 hours drive. And then we had, I took the bus. Went down and took the boat. And then we had the boat. It would be good. Now, next week, the big planes start coming in, and it's only $200. It's the Cape Air. It's more money than crossing the country. It was $35.
If I flew up yesterday and flew back Monday, it would have been $954 for a 40-minute flight.
Bargain.
15.
Yeah.
Bargain.
You know.
The rumor is that the flight from the Vineyard to Nantucket is dollar per mile the highest in the United States.
But yeah,
From the Vineyard to Nantucket. Yeah, it's like a 15-minute flight.
15 minutes.
Welcome, everybody.
It's so good to see you. It's ridiculous.
It's really hot. We have a fan in the back of the room, which we hope is going to help a little bit.
I bet you can go there.
Fans,
Yeah,
we're all
you're right.
fans.
Yeah,
Fans. But please be careful around that fan because there's a missing part. So there you go. And I know it's hot, and we're so sorry. It's hard to balance the need for our collection and balance all of this. So, thank you, Kathy, for letting me interrupt.
Great. All right. Well, welcome to Amity Island. It's a beautiful day and the beaches are open. But yet you all are here. And you're here because of your community. You're here because of our community. I'm Kathy Leanne, the managing director, and I just want to welcome you to our museum, to our island. I hope you have a wonderful stay here. Thank you so much for being part of our history as we kick off Amity Homecoming Weekend. This is really meant to bring the Jaws fans, all of you coming from all over the world, here to the islands and have you be able to interact and engage with local islanders that are involved in the film. So it's going to be a fantastic next 5 days, and I'm going to turn it over to Nate.
Thank you. I wasn't speechless until about 5 minutes ago. I seem to have lost my train of thought. First, I want to thank everyone here. This has been a big thing in the making for quite a few years. You know, and the fact that we're here, these guys are here with us, just completely blows me away. I'm quite not in touch with the reality that I'm doing this at the moment, but I will be in a little, hopefully. You know, first and foremost, we've all come here. We don't want to come here. We want to go to the sites. We want to see where things took place, and you know, the buildings that we still recognize, and the staircase with the railing that goes over it, and seeing the Jaws Bridge, and that is wonderful. And we have that connection, but I think there's something bigger going on here, and what's going on here right now is the personal connection of the people in this room. Jaws, amazing film. No one in here is going to disagree that our favorite, but it's become the vehicle for this gathering, and it's not just here; it's across countries, it's across continents, and the fact that Jaws has become that vehicle, I just think is absolutely amazing, and has made a connection of people. I have talked to people and seen people that are from all over the place place that I talked to for years. And today I've been meeting them for the first time. I just, honestly, my personal connection to that, I just think that is the biggest thing going on here. I'm just so impressed with that. So thank you very much. And the wonderful individuals that came to hang out and spend some time with us. I mean, really, we have great people here joining us today. Mike, you want to introduce everybody?
Hi, everybody. I'm Mike Smith. So about 5 years ago, Jay Smith and I, no relation, started this little show, and it's grown into this. It's amazing. We're a family. We have fans on our page from 34 different countries, which is just mind-boggling when you think about it. We do our show every Thursday night at 6:30 Eastern time. We have fans over in England where it's midnight watching. We have fans in Brazil. We have fans in Australia. The reach of this film, what this film has done for the last 50 years, has brought us all together, and I think it's an amazing achievement. So give yourselves a hand. And we've got quite a dais of celebs today. Next to me is Tom Dunlop from, he was Timmy in Jaws 2. He's also an author.
Oh my God.
Next to him is Gary Springer, everybody's best friend, Andy from Jaws 2. Next to him, we were at the Edgartown Diner this morning, my wife and I pointed to a booth. I said, 20 years ago, this man walked into the diner and I bought him breakfast. And ever since then, he has truly been a friend to me. Deputy Hendricks, Jeff Kramer. Next to him, the reason we're all in Martha's Vineyard.
Yeah, that's true.
The production designer, created The Shark, directed Jaws 3, Oscar nominee for his work on Close Encounters, Mr. Joe Al. Next to Joe is an author and a story biographer. Their new book just came out last month. It is available at Edgartown Books. They will be there tomorrow signing it, and they'll also be here at the museum on Sunday. Dennis Prince. And then finally, a true Jaws kid, Richard Garvison's stepdaughter, Tracy Urick. And then joining us via satellite, as they say, I don't know if she's there, I can't see that.
She is.
Brooke, my high school crush, Gigi Morgan.
Hi, Gigi.
Yeah.
We have our third member of the trio. This is the trio of the Three Musketeers. This is Janie and this is Clark. No relation there.
And that's all the time we have.
You have to ask Judy Pancoast if we can begin.
So I thought what we do is just kind of throw it open to questions. And if anybody has any questions, Charlotte has a microphone. Raise your hand. And
Try now. Come on. There you go, Charlotte. I don't know what I can
No questions?
Hi. I was wondering where the food stayed and all of that when filming was happening.
I didn't hear you.
Oh.
The whole question.
Where everybody stayed. Like
Oh.
stayed, when it was filming.
Harborview. No, you
I had a
in-
house.
Yeah, you had a house
Up the road, I can't remember where, but I stayed in Harvard for,
for a while. Yeah.
yeah, and then I wanted to go to The house was great.
You know, Jaws is really the example that is, if you live long enough, you can get some respect in Cuba. I mean, I'm 112, and it is nice.
I'm loud. My name is Jamie from Canada. Massive fan, absolutely. I think I have probably the biggest collection of stuff in Canada. Nowhere near as big as my friends over there, Eric and Mark. But in Canada, I think I've got the market cornered. Couple things. One for Joe. During the making of the first film, was there ever a time? Because anytime I've ever seen you talk about it, you've always been positive, and I know with, but with all the problems they had, was there ever a time that you thought, "This, I'm done. Like this isn't going to work. This is like." Did you ever feel like it wasn't going to happen? And how surprised were you when you saw the final cut?
Well, I wasn't surprised because I knew what we were going to do.
Sure.
I was disappointed in the studio because they were going to fire Steven. And the reason they were going to fire Steven is, first of all, I sort of made a mistake when I scouted this because I scouted it in December. And I saw the bridge, the bay, nothing was there. When I came back in May, it was just loaded with boats. Now, Steven was very persistent, wanted to see the guys totally isolated, nothing else. So we had 3 guys on the boat. Shaw broke the radio. And so they were isolated. And the studio kept saying, how come the kid's not shooting? He was 28 years old. And we had people zooming out and saying, would you move your boat here? Would you move it? So he had a clip. And some people wouldn't. Other people were just arrogant. No, I'm going to sail right in front of you. So he wouldn't shoot unless he had no other boats around. And so back in the office, Bill Gilmore, who's the production director, and we had all the storyboards of everything we were going to shoot. So we're going by the script. We're going to shoot this with that. And so that was disappointing. We never thought we were going to quit. It was just like, to get the shots. Very, very difficult. And it was, disappointing. Let me just say this. The studio wasn't excited about making a little shark movie. They didn't, I brought a carpenter and a painter. That was it. And I used local talent.
Very cool.
To make the Orca, Quint Shack, all that. And Steven used the selectmen.
Yes.
So now we have those people, but there were a lot of people, wealthy people, that didn't want to. This is their summer release. So that was a conflict, We really didn't have the studio behind us. And when we got back home, they weren't behind us. We were over the budget, over schedule. So that was it. It was just like, is anything ever going to happen with this?
But you never gave up hope.
Oh, no.
Despite all the problems, you always stayed positive.
Yeah, in fact, when we got back, we had to shoot some stuff in LA, and they had a screening in Texas, and Steven said, he said, I got 4 screens, I think I could get 5. He said, but I need the head coming out of the hall, and he wanted the hall with show me the way to the home and break it. So I built that in my backyard, and we shot that in Bernie Fields Pool, who won the Academy Award. So that was the 5 screens. So it never stopped.
We've been screaming ever since.
Well, and I must say this: the shark made very weird sounds.
Oh.
And so when Steven said cut, we would laugh. And then John Williams, the music came. So a lot of us felt when we watched the first screening, it was Republican. they were going to laugh and not scream because of the shark making that funny sound. Well, it didn't make that, and then so we were sort of surprised to that point that they didn't laugh.
Was it very shocking to? I'm sorry, I don't mean to be going. Was it very shocking to when you saw the movie for the first time with John Williams' music, and like it must have been just like the part of Wizard of Oz when it goes from black and white to color. It just must have been.
He added another dimension to it.
Awesome.
There's a message in it for everybody in the room in the sense that never stop moving forward. 3 steps forward, you may take 2 back, but it's progress and you can't quit. You just got to keep doing it. And we used to have a friend who was an usher in the theater in LA who'd let us in every night when Ben Gardner's head pops out of the boat. I mean, no exaggeration, the popcorn, the soda was flying up in the air. The entire audience reared back. It was something to see a movie effect like that.
Well, Ben Gardner's head, to shoot that sequence, we stole it from the makeup department.
Yeah.
The producers, Zanuck and Brown, didn't know we were shooting this. And we borrowed the camera somewhere. And so when we had the dailies, they said, it can't be dailies, Jaws is finished, And then Stephen put them together, and it worked.
David Brown once asked me to accept an award on behalf of him and Zanuck. And Marty Nadler, who's a Vineyarder, wrote me a line, and I used it. And he said, you got to hand it to 2 guys who pulled millions out of the water without even getting wet. It's so good.
Can I ask a Jaws 2 question?
If you dare.
I know. First of all, I love Jaws 2 just as much as I love the first. One thing that's fascinating, I talked to Tom about this one. On YouTube, you can see what I think is fascinating. The whole sequence when you're pulling Mike, pulling Mike out of the water there, and it's the crowd reaction. You're listening to the crowds scream. That doesn't happen anymore. You go to the theater and there's nothing that makes people emote like that, like they did back then. And I just think that's absolutely fascinating. My Jaws 2 question is kind of silly, and I'm sure you've been asked this a million times, but I've never seen you answer it. I know that Jeannot was a big fan of yours, and he pushed to get you because in the original you weren't going to be in the second one.
Yeah.
Yes,
They had
and
this
then
heavy guy.
I remember him saying, like, well, "Where's the deputy? I liked him. I want him back. Got you back." Why did your name change from Lenny?
That is a great question. Roy, in his coolness in Jaws 2, called me Jeff. And I thought for sure they're going to change it.
And they did, and then
they
Alan Brody
didn't.
did too, and nobody
It
changed
was nuts. It was crazy. What a
Just
what a
wondered.
mistake. But Jaws 2, Roy also got so tan they had to color correct him
Yes.
on the final.
Yeah, because Michael Butler said to me and to Jeannot, he said, he goes out in this little bikini and has a reflector and lays on the beach.
I got
And he
the
says,
pictures.
his color is getting darker and darker. Well, Roy didn't want to do that movie. And, so Jeannot, that was Jeannot's big problem.
Oh yeah. And you know when Joe talks about the boats that were around in those days, you just had to wait. In Jaws 2, we had nuclear powered aircraft carriers in the background.
Yeah.
And you just had to wait. Nowadays you can green screen it out, it was crazy.
Well,
but-
we shot the water in Florida.
yeah.
We knew the population here was really difficult to shoot the water. That was a mistake of mine.
As Joe was
Yep, but
mentioning, it was Roy didn't want to do it. So it got to the point towards the very end of the shoot, which was November, and it was pretty cold in Florida, that between every take, Roy would take his clothes off, sit there with his thing, and then say, okay, we're ready. And then we have to wait for Roy to get dressed again. finally, David Brown, you know, the most unbelievable gentleman of all, takes one of the Boston Whalers out to the boat and just dresses Roy down and says, "We've got one shot." And Roy wasn't going to do it like the last shot, but he wanted to sit there with his sun thing, and it was.
He's sunning, and we're chewing ice between takes so you wouldn't see your breath.
Thank you very much, guys.
David
And
Brown
the
was a
joke
great guy.
was if any of us ever went to prison, we got 6 months off of any jail term just for doing Jaws 2 in Pensacola.
But one of the best things about the sequence that you mentioned, where they're pulling Mike out of the water, is that what really looks so real and makes it even scarier is that when the shark opened its mouth, one of the hydraulic pins broke. So it didn't just open like that. It really opened like it was going to bite him. And it was, you know, it made it even scarier.
Just love it. Absolutely love
That's news to me.
it. Thank you so much.
How old were you, 15 in that movie?
I was 16.
You were 16.
Well, it went on for so long. I started at 16.
Yeah.
And I went to 17.
Yeah, we all got together not too, 2 months ago. Schwartz died, and Jay-Z was there. He doesn't look any different. Same
Yeah,
hair,
really.
really cute. And Gary was there, and Gary didn't make it, but it was quite an experience. Got the job because they fired John Hancock.
Yes.
And they were going to shut the movie down, and they headed the studio. So we. What?
What's this?
No, not Sid. No. No. Anyway, so they said, well, maybe Joe and Bruno could direct it, but they wouldn't let us do that, the directors union. And they were saying, oh, we need a, auto premature or something. And I said, if we want to release this in June, we got to get somebody that could do it right now. And, I did Night Gallery, and he did like 23 episodes. And he, I had 2 or 3 directors in a week, so they didn't have much time to prep. But always found a way of doing it a little better. And I mentioned it to Verna, and she looked at a movie he made, Bug, and went to the head of production at the time, wasn't Marshall, but I can't remember his name. But anyway, and so they hired him. So he had to focus really on Roy and the main actors, and I started working with the kids, doing second unit with the boats. And then I realized, and it was interesting because David Brown would join me, and I didn't realize how much we had to sit and wait for everything. The shark, the kids, and who had the boat with the black boat?
That was Dukakis's was the black boat,
and it was
Timmy wound up.
And it was the slowest boat. And these guys had, these fast boats. Dukakis, get that boat. Well, it doesn't want to move, and it was very frustrating.
Well, what was really funny, it was like, when there's only a few cast members, it's one thing, you're waiting for the shark or something. Well, in Jaws 2, it was like, well, let's send the kids out sailing. That's all we did. Send the kids out sailing.
The first director, John Hancock, had an idea, because when I found Martha's Vineyard for Jaws, it was just perfect. It was these beautiful white old buildings with these picket fences and stuff like that. And on 2, he wanted it to look bad. He wanted the fences broken and things. He wanted to paint all the boats dark colors, everything down. And that changed when they got rid of them. And then so I painted everything right. And it was supposed to be Martha's Vineyard is alive, and the shark's not going to bother again. Of course.
Thank God.
But sitting out there waiting for these things.
Sometimes they had 3 camera units set up ready. The the wind could change, the boats could drag. Some days there was not a foot of film that was usable.
Well, I was directing a sequence where there's a helicopter that lands, and you get a 7-for-8 call. So you have to start taking the camera boat out, the effects boat, you have to go all these boats. By the time you get ready to shoot, it's like 11. The water isn't smooth, it's getting choppy. So I had the helicopter. Okay, spin the helicopter. Get the shark. The blades fell off and it flipped over.
We were there.
Day 2, we got out there, got all the boats. Okay, get the shark ready. All right, helicopter is working. It went and grabbed the camera boat. Day 3, finally the shark did a perfect job and flipped it over. Except the guy that was the pilot, he couldn't swim. So a guy had to rescue him. So it was all fun.
Okay, I have a question for you. First of all, do you prefer to be called Thomas or Tom? Or
Tom.
Tom, you look so much like you did back then.
Oh.
I mean, only the hair
Yep.
is different.
That's the thing I regret.
Yeah, but at least you still have hair. Most men with curly hair.
Come on.
What's the matter with
Where's the hat?
But what I was gonna say is, you couldn't possibly have really had trouble getting girls to do.
Well, now, I hope this isn't the headline coming out of here, but I didn't really care because I didn't really know it then, but certainly was true, is I'm gay. So it wasn't really the girls who were... No, I'd see David Elliott walk by, the mayor's son.
Yeah.
Hey, Tom, he wouldn't give me the time of day.
Well, happy Pride.
Thank you so much.
But you're still thin, you still wear glasses, you still wear Emmys, nothing's really changed.
Yeah, I'll tell you one little thing about this. So that sequence is completely improvised. How to get the kids out into the water sailing. And Billy Van Zandt and Keith Gordon are just wonderful, spontaneous writers. They're really good. And they devised the scene where Brooke, my beautiful Brooke, goes running by and he says, "Do you see she was staring at you," and all that. They wrote the whole thing except they left out the part where I would run myself down. Because if it had been left to the two of them, there was has body odor. Is not that good at math. So they left it to me to come up with the 3 things that made me undesirable. And that's my only contribution to that.
hilarious scene? Hilarious scene.
Let's get back to the first film.
My name's Bill. I'm from California, and just an aside, I grew up going to Universal Studios, so when the movie came out, the whole attraction, so that was really cool. But the question is for you, Joe. You mentioned you scouted this in December. You came back in May. Outside of all the boats being here, was there a specific scene you had in your mind or scenes that in December you're like, that's an awesome location, and you came back, started to do it, and you were like, just not going to work, and you had to sort of figure it out at the last minute because it just wasn't visually working on film?
What do you mean, the Vineyard?
Yeah, like, was there a scene maybe you scouted in December with your mind to say this worked for this specific scene, and then you came back and you're like, we have to change locations on the island because of anything other than the boats being in the background?
It was perfect.
That's awesome.
Let me tell you why. Because, I got here in December 17th. And somebody said, I knew the exact date. And then I drove through Oak Bluff and Vineyard Haven, but in between Oak Bluff and Edgartown, from Vineyard Haven, I saw this bay, and we didn't have Google. I had just a big map, and I met with Peter Benchley, and I said, "Where did you write this for? Sag Harbor or something?" He said, "No, I just various little towns, but it was on the coast." And I said, "What about these two islands?" And he said, "There's nothing in Martha's Vineyard, but you've never been there. Go to Nantucket because my mother will make you cheese, cheese sandwiches." And his father was a writer, his grandpa was a writer. So I got to Woods Hole and I got on the ferry to Nantucket. We got halfway and it was too rough. They turned around, so I'm in Woods Hole. I said, "Oh, there's a ferry to Martha's Vineyard." Well, hell, I might as well go there. So when I got there, I rented a car and I started driving, and it was just very, very quaint, Woods Hole. But then I saw the bay, and I needed a bay 25 feet depth with a hard bottom and a big view. I said, "This is perfect, for all the water." And there was a nice beach there. And then Edgartown was perfect. I mean, because it was so pristine, all the white buildings, the picket fences. And then I went to Menemsha. Menemsha was fantastic. Like all these fishermen's, little buildings, and then there was an open lot, like a quench sector, make it bigger, use this long guy. So, yeah, when I got back and I told Stephen about it, and in those days you photographed things, and you photographed all back at 36, millimeter, and you didn't know what you got until you got home. Anyway, so took Stephen there. He wanted to try someplace north. Somebody had told him about, but he loved it. I loved it. Zanuck and Brown. Zanuck, was concerned with the rich people here and all that stuff. So it worked perfect. I mean, there was nothing I disliked about it, except when, first of all, I was supposed to have a year you have to go to sharp. But we started working on it in probably November, late October, November, started building it. We were supposed to have that year, so I took it the next year. And then the book came out in February, and the studio said, "We're going to start shooting in 2 months." So I said, "But we got to build this up." They don't care. Let me tell you, executives don't care. This is what you got to do, no matter how difficult it makes. But I love the Vineyard, and Menemsha was just so perfect. And I'll never forget, because I was going to build, and this local fisherman, Lynn Murphy, "What are you guys doing here? You're recommending." I said, "You're a fisherman, right?" "Yeah." "You know this area?" "Yeah." I said, "I need somebody to tow the shark." "Really?" So he towed the shark, and so it was great, except for the multitude of boats coming here and enjoy it. And so the only thing I figured, if we ever do a Jaws 2, I'll take the shark. What happened, basically, I was doing a book called Close Encounters of the Guy in Mobile, Alabama. And this girl I knew, she had greyhound dogs, and she would run them on the beach in Pensacola. And I said, "Oh God, if we ever do a Jaws 2, look, if there's nobody out there, it was just isolated." So we would do the town, and then, so that was the whole process. But the Vineyard was perfect,
Thank you.
Hi, so Mike introduced me as Richard's stepdaughter, but I also have been a special effects makeup artist and I've owned special effects for about 20 years, and now I've transitioned more to beauty. And Jaws is such an incredible movie, but like as we're talking about the actual shark, like how amazing is it that back then we were able to make such a fearful, not we, but they were able to make such an amazing, impactful, realistic, fearful thing that like still freaks me out by going into the water. So it's just so amazing how realistic and terrifying it was back then, and like how we do so much with computers and everything
Yeah.
nowadays
Mhm.
to just
It's
do
all
it organically.
CGI now.
Yeah, CGI, and then everybody was just working out of a truck and like making it look as badass as it was. So if anybody has any special effects questions, I'd be happy to you know.
First of all, I'd like to thank Jeffrey Kramer. I've never met him before. He was the nicest guy just now. Like I've known him for 20 years.
This guy?
That guy right there. He's terrific. And Joe Alves, I'd like to congratulate you on your terrific career. I love Preston County, all the work you've ever done. But my question is, one of the greatest scenes that you direct was in Jaws 3, that point of view shot sequence of the I think his name was Simon before.
Yes.
Getting eaten inside the shark. How did you come up with that?
We have to make a much bigger shark, 35-foot shark, to put Simon in there. And that was a little spooky, because he was in the water. Yeah. And then the whole lab sunk, and Lou Gossett was supposed to be in there. And we were ready to shoot it, and Lou said, this is my last day of shooting. I don't want it to be my last day. So got to get somebody else to do that. But yeah, that was, not the easiest movie. 3D. Anyway, that's something else.
Highest grossing 3D film of the 20th century.
Good question.
Well, speaking of special effects, I was in the Hancock version of Jaws 2. So, I mean, actually, it was great because I got cast in March, and we finished finally in February. So I was on that movie for 11 months. It was wonderful. But I had, gotten permission to leave California, where I dropped my car off in New York, to then come down here. And I was in Wisconsin. And I get a phone call from my agent. She says, they need you in LA tomorrow. And I said, well, what? He said, effects and makeup and effects. And I'm like, I got to get to New York. So I basically, drove 24 hours with a little chemical help, dropped my car off, said hello to my parents, girlfriend, got on a plane, flew back to LA. The next morning I was at Universal, half dead. And basically, they were taking a mold of my teeth, because my character wore braces. And it was like, the makeup guy, Rick, I think it was Rick, says, oh, we could have done that down there. That's no worry. So, and of course, and it's like, they had these braces that I snapped on, and, wore this hat with a stupid feather in it. And then afterwards, as soon as Jeannot took over, he said, nah, that stuff's stupid. Get rid of that. So that was my big special effects thing with the braces.
Hello everyone, I'm Toby from the UK. Also, that's my birthday. I have a question for every single person. I'd like to know what Jaws meant to you at the time of shooting Jaws 2, what it meant to you at the time of making the movie, and also what Jaws means to you now.
That's a good question. Maybe Gigi could answer that. We haven't heard from her.
Hi.
Did you get the question?
No.
I apologize.
Oh, she looks better that way.
Hey, repeat the question, please.
Repeat the question, please.
Could you repeat the question, please? You have beautiful accent of yours.
Sorry, we're having some sound issues.
I can repeat the question. My question was, what has Jaws meant to you when you saw it, or what it did, and what it means to you?
We're going to.
You're breaking up. I don't know what with this now. What does Jaws 2 mean to me?
Yeah. When you made it, and now.
Well, let's see. When I got the call for Jaws to go to Universal, I was done acting. I'd been an acting kid, and I'd finished that, and I was a journalism major in school. and these agents who I had who didn't know still had my number called me and said, "You got to go to Universal today." And I went, "Okay." And 2 days later, I was gone for 7 months. So it meant a lot to me then. It kind of changed my career. And then I met all these fabulous people who are my friends today, 47 years later. And what does it mean to me now? Community, great shared memories. We have such a closeness between the cast members that it means my very closest friends, my oldest friends. I like to be funny about that. Well, the only thing funny about that is entertainment.
You know, the whole thing about, oh, did you finish? I didn't know.
You hear me?
The whole thing about, you know, I was actually doing the Hardy Boys at Universal. I was playing Chet Morton, their best friend who would get into trouble, and, you know, they would have to get me out of trouble, and all I would do was eat, which is basically what I did in Jaws 2 as well.
And still do.
And I still do. But when I ran into John Hancock, who I knew because my father was a press agent and had represented 2 or 3 of John's movies. And he was like, we ran into him in the commissary, and he was like, "Oh, you know, you'd be great if you were free because there's this role in it." And I went to my agent. I said, "Look, they don't want me in the Hardy Boys. They just want to focus on the boys because the first couple of shows that we did, episodes, it was like true to the book. But then they started, you know, just focusing on the boys and writing everybody else out. So, I mean, the opportunity to be in Jaws too, because Jaws was so, you know, monumental and it was so extraordinary. And so I was able to, you know, because it was a Universal, did both. So they got me out of my Hardy Boys contract and into Jaws too. And it was like a dream. And then all of a sudden, Hancock gets fired and half the cast gets fired. And I was like, "Oh no, I should have stayed with the Hardy Boys." But luckily, obviously, and, you know, again, we have been all friends for, you know, as you said, 47 years, but it was the excitement and energy of Jaws that created Jaws 2 and made it so special for us.
And you know, I wasn't hired until the second director came on.
You know, it's so funny because I was an actor in New York, but I grew up here. I'm a Cronin, and I read the Gazette. And I saw an ad for a show, and I called they were looking for actors. I was living in New York. I called my agent, who got me an appointment with Steven Spielberg. Steven was still Steven then. I mean, and I went in and met him, and it's the only time in my life I ever walked out of a meeting and I said, "I'm going to get this job." And 10 days later, I was in Virginia shooting it and got the call. Nobody knew it was a job. It was a job. And I mean, the first day of principal photography, when I showed up, I had a little honey wagon, a little dressing room. It was unbelievable. And that's the day that I find Chrissy's hand. And I was so nervous, I probably could have really thrown up. Literally. Chrissy's hand with that first day on the beach. With all of that.
Good. Yeah, you look like you were going to throw up.
But we made friends for life. Joel, Gary, Tom I've known since then, Jeannot, who was just one of my dear. I got married at Jeannot's house. And these, you know, when a location and an intense job lasts that long, it tends to bond you in a certain way. Because you go off on location for 2-3 weeks, and it's over, and you make friends, but you go on, you move on with your life and your professional life. But these are friends and bonded by this, and having it be an iconic historical success really kind of cemented it all. And when we see each other, we just pick up kind of where we left off. Really that given love and understanding and acceptance that long-term friendships kind of allow us. Really nice.
What, you want me to go there?
No, it's Tom's.
you know, this was in the 70s, 60s. There was a studio system, Fox, MGM. And if you were fortunate, you became a staff person. And you got your work from the head of the department. So I was a staff art director. Alex Lewis was the head of the art department. And I was doing a television movie. We did a lot of television movies back then. And this was very unusual. I get a call from David Brown, the producer from New York called. And he said, my wife, Alexander Johnson, was the editor of Cosmopolitan. Just read the galaxy of a book called Jaws. And they didn't have a charge number. He said, could you do a dozen or so, maybe 2 pictures of shark activity in the galaxy? Very unusual. If you do a lot of illustrations, art director is supposed to get an illustrator too. But they couldn't pay anybody. So I went to the head of the department. He says, okay, Danica and Brown, they're big producers, just do it on your own. And so basically, I still have them. They're in the book. And I would go over to Stephen and I really want to do a pirate movie. But anyway, we kept talking about it. So the bottom line was those illustrations, I had a meeting, Marshall Green's office, all the department heads, and I explained this or that. And Stephen and I decided if we're going to make this, we want to make like a 25-foot shark in the real ocean. It's never been done. So I explained that, and Martha deferred to the effects department, and they said, we can't do it. We're doing, bigger movies, and this would take a year and a half, and the service is done, and blah, blah, blah. So they left, and Marshall said to me, can we get the shark thing? And he said, take it off the lot, which is very important. Smart. Never, don't do it here. So that's how it started. Maddie, that's how to do the stuff. So basically, Jaws was quite different for me because now I was the designer and also sort of head of the effect. And then I had to work with an epidemiologist to get a shark to look with a 4-foot model. And Leonard Capone was an epidemiologist. Said the perfect shark is 12 feet. As they get bigger, they get fatter. So Steve and I decided to make one twice that. And so it was sort of crazy, Anyway, we got to that shark work. What was important is the next job. I think it was embryo, Bob Hudson, and then Stevie had this little movie called Third Kind. And what changed was I was no longer a staff art director making sales. Yeah, and 4 times that. Yeah. And I had to get an agent and change things. And then we were going to do a movie, Shark 3 People Zero. It was going to make fun of all the people. People that make fun of the movie. The most successful movie this is how the executives think, oh, we'll make fun. It was terrible. And anyway, I guess Stephen got involved with that. And so then Werner referred me to the producer of that. And I made a drawing of a shark coming at you. And they said, okay, you can direct it. So after Jaws 3, I didn't think about sharks again until this century. And then it started coming back. The interest of Jaws came back, years later. It went through sort of a dead period, and I don't know why, we had
the internet helped a lot. Yeah.
None of us swam the same.
Yeah.
and Dennis wrote, the book. I met him, and so he started writing, Designing Jaws, and then the latest book. So,
your hand up today?
Yeah, go ahead.
It's interesting. when I was 12 years old, I was at Monster Kids, saw all the monster movies, and all my classmates said, "Hey, you've obviously seen Jaws, right, Dennis?" And I'm like, yeah, not yet, because I was afraid to go see this movie. I heard how frightening it was, and they're thinking, why would the guy who likes all those the scary movies not be seeing Jaws yet? And I finally mustered up the courage with a friend to go see it. Changed my life. And if any of you have a film in life, you say, "Oh, what's your favorite film?" And some film at a point in your childhood just captures you, and you say, "This is it forever going forward." And that was Jaws. Still is. Always will be. Love the film. Spent time listening to John Williams soundtrack on the LP. I still have it. Drawing sharks on notebook paper when I should have been doing math. And I wrote a fan letter in 1989 to Joe Alves. How'd you get my? So I wrote this fan letter to Joe Alves in 1989, and I didn't have a picture of him. I wanted Joe Alves looking, you know. So I sent him the index cards. I get the index cards back. It's got his address and a little label. I'm like, my God, the man wrote back to me. You know, you send a self-addressed stamp envelope. That's the way you do it. And the man wrote back to me. I get the index card signed by Joe Alves, but he draws me this multicolor shark drawing on Jaws 2 letterhead for nothing, and says, "Good luck, Dennis." And I'm like, yeah. Fast forward, 2014. I'm doing this other book. I'm going to Kentucky. I'm going to launch this other book, totally different topic. And Joe Alves was one of the guests also at that show. And I'm thinking, as I prepare for this show, what if I get to meet Joe? What if I would ever get to do a Jaws book? That would be like a hoot. And another fellow I was there who was kind of in the guest area, he's like, "Oh, I know Joe. Let me introduce you to Joe." Introduces me to Joe. I get to meet Joe. The last day we're leaving. He's having breakfast. I'm having breakfast. He says, "Oh, you're leaving on the same flight as me?" "Yeah." "Well, we should sit together." And I'm like this fanboy going, and I'm like, "Yeah, sure." And so we sat together for 3 hours. I realized he's so much more than Jaws. And he told me everything about Disney and Alfred Hitchcock, Paul Newman, and you just go through the whole list of everything, John Carpenter. And it was so amazing. And I was probably about 2 hours into that flight, I decided I'd pop the question. Joe,
were you
have
married?
you ever thought of? Yeah. I love you. Have you ever thought about doing a book? He goes, "Yeah, I thought about it. I'll call you." I'm sure he's going to call me. And I'm sitting at my desk 2 weeks later, and all of a sudden, I look at my caller ID, Joe Alves. So anyway, that started that whole book process. We did lots of other books in the meantime.
You know who that is?
Yeah.
Is himself with
Carla?
you? Is himself with you?
Yeah.
No, that's not her.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Oh no.
Okay. Yeah. So anyway, that's how that all happened. This guy has an amazing. What does it mean to me? It's all of these folks, all of you folks I had. I saw you guys in where were we, the Hollywood show one time. It's just these people are incredible, and they're so normal. You guys are so normal.
Congratulations.
Yeah, congratulations on the house. And anyway, it's just been a lot of fun, and from an outsider's looking in, it's just such an amazing opportunity, and an amazing opportunity to help share more of these stories, to help dispel some of the myths. So that's me.
And you know, Joe Alves was unheralded. He's a giant in this industry, and really, in many ways, made the world notice art direction in the movie. We never really, because he did so many of these movies that really, whether it was Escape from New York or Jaws or Close Encounters, I mean, you remember that art and the sets and everything in these big movies, and he rose to the occasion, and he was so talented and kind and decent.
Just like,
and I'm done now. That's all. No more.
In Jaws 2, he built the lighthouse, which was basically used for one shot, and it was one of the most beautiful structures ever. It was this old Victorian, gorgeous lighthouse. And, you know, I think that they wanted to keep it down there, but then we had to rip it down. And it was such, you know, what a disaster.
Twin shack too. And you had a whale in front.
Yeah, yeah.
Anyway, you.
Oh, can I have Mr. UK ask the question one more time? We all kind of, first of all, happy birthday. Are you all the way from the UK for this specifically? Happy birthday. Please ask me again.
My question is, what did Jaws mean to you, or your father, or your stepfather, when it was made, compared to what it means now?
Wasn't born yet.
Yep.
Better reservations when we're with the family all together. The third one was, once again, what? What does it mean to me now?
Yeah.
Oh, how long special effects has come, what a community is built, like how we all are just like the merchandise, the amazing characters still living on, how everyone is still like just the tattoo work that has come out of it, the people knowing who what Jaws is that are 12 and people knowing what Jaws is when they're 80 plus. So I'm actually gonna, I think I have a really big birthday present for you. So I don't know if they want to.
You got one more question.
Can I ask a question?
Now, someone in the back, I think.
I think there's a question all the way in the back.
Ned Kennedy.
Oh,
Ned Kennedy. He was so just click on
One ball.
One ball.
Remember the guy in the shooting?
I am from Buffalo, New York.
Everybody
on camera, I was just wondering how one of my favorite actors is Roy Scheider. I was just wondering how it was working with Roy Scheider.
You're the guy.
Oh, am I the guy for this? Roy was a terrific actor. He was a great Brody. I couldn't imagine anybody doing it better. He really was great at playing anal retentive. He was great. And in Jaws 1, he was a lovely man. He came and supported. I ran a theater here in the Vineyard called the Vineyard Players. Came to a show, and he was lovely. Jaws 2, he just didn't want to do it. He was forced to do it, and you could feel it. You just knew it. But he was a professional, and he played the role. Is that nice enough?
That's good. That's good. If I could, sorry to interrupt, if I could just have everyone's attention. We had someone who wanted to stop in it.
Oh, he's always
Yeah, we got a chair right here in front.
Did a couple pictures with this guy.
Okay,
How are you?
Yeah. You an Islander now?
No, I just showed up for this thing.
Oh, I thought you were living here.
He is.
Just have it sit up in front. Have me come back here.
So, you doing all right?
Great.
Life gets difficult.
Three-phase vehicle.
Like what?
Remembering things,
Yeah.
energy.
Did you do? Commercial. Down in Brooklyn.
No. Yeah.
Okay, because what's his name? Our cinematographer, he did it.
Dennis?
Yeah.
And
Share
it
with-
was
We got right direction.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
designed it. You know that the only time ever, the only time I ever had a dream during, I dreamt current problem, and I dreamt about it. It was an argument with you and Earl, the lighting guy.
Oh, on Close Encounters.
No, on what? You kept on, the two of you didn't get along. So I dreamt one night that you and he were having a terrible fight. It was great.
We had to get on Close Encounters too. Wow.
Yeah.
These are 48 parts of our thing. And Julia Phillips, who was always crazy.
Yeah.
You did
She
great.
was great. She was crazy, but she was great.
First part.
Yeah.
We're talking about another movie.
Come sit. Okay.
I don't even know. I didn't have a lighting guy.
I can't wait to hear the questions you want to ask.
No, that kid?
The one name, he's got one name now. He used to be Steven, but he's got one name. Spielberg. He's joking. Don't know that. $6 million.
Oh, nothing. A week before.
That's 2 budgets of Jaws. 3.
Jaws, it was like 7.5, 8.
And Jaws 2 was like 44, and what was yours 3?
No, close to 3 was like 3. 20.
Guys, do you mind if we got you for one? We have here.
Yeah, bring the microphone up.
This is the director that you
Hi. We can hear you.
You're live.
You're on.
He's on. No way. Worth $6 million 50 years ago. No. We were worth shit.
Big change.
I have a question.
And the log cabin where Steven stayed,
Yeah.
I heard that it disappeared.
Who knows?
Torn
Is
down.
it still there?
Torn down. It's a big monstrosity house.
It's the log cabin where they live. And stayed in Edgewood Kansas. And never realized how much sex was involved. Really? I never realized. But they heard you. They heard you. And I had a and Tom was a German Shepherd that was owned by a girl who lived in the woods, and she was there up in the old side of the world. And she was at the log cabin the first night we all arrived, and she listened to us for about 15 minutes.
I can't hear.
Walked up to me, held up my chest, looked in my face. Yeah. And then I see her and sit down and I would flirt with Pippin on the guy, the girl, and that's what we do. And in the middle of flirting one day, I heard her say, walk away. And she said, lift her heel. And looked at her, looked at me, walked up my chest, licked my face, and she said,
I can't hear you. I want to hear.
and at a certain point, Pippin and I was up. And at one point, she said that she was going off island for a week. And she said, Tom, you say you Richard for you. And both did. And she went to the hotel. And they were about to say, we don't check. But it was Tom. They all knew Tom. So they said, oh, that's Tom. Well, he could stay. And he stayed in front of my door all night. And then he stayed for the week. And then about a week later, we were walking along the street and turned and blocked my way. And I looked at him and said, that's good. Yeah. And talking to Tom was like talking to and Tiffin was in fact at that moment coming off the ferry. How he knew that? And we.
Hey y'all. Hey Nate. Nate.
And she was a big sprite, and she lived in the woods. And she knew everything about my family. And then we started to play a game with the audience who knew what about the film. And I said, and whatever you can do is film. And if you want to quiz me, it's fine. Go ahead. You can ask me whatever you want. But if you ask me a question, and I know the answer, and if you ask me a question and I don't know the answer, I owe you $20. And they all started raising their hands, and they all started losing $20. And finally, and they realized I wasn't kidding. I found 2 twin girls, both of whom were 9, much younger than normal. And they asked me a question I did not know.
That's great.
And when the 2 of them asked me this question, before they were finished, I took my wallet out and went over to them, gave them the money, and I said, "That's the first time I've ever had to pay out."
What's the question?
Well, I have no.
If you know, you would have known the answer.
Now, I wonder if they're that bad, because it's got to be that they're 20 at least.
For another $20.
Yeah. And if they're not, they should be.
I have a question for you.
That's a true story because he took $20 from me. He took it too. That's a true story.
That's why Mike is here, he's trying to get the money back.
I got 20 in my pocket for you. This is more of a, if you could confirm this, when in the sequence when you and Brody are on the phone trying to get people to come to the island, help with the shark and stuff. At one point, Roy Scheider's he's in the front of, and you kind of miss it, but in the background you're talking and you're saying Michigan, that's the man that feeds white rice. Was that your agent or your publicist? Is that
agent?
You owe him $20 because I asked him that question 2 years ago.
My pleasure. My pleasure. My absolute pleasure. Thank you, sir. My pleasure.
There is remnants of the 50 that was here. We're going to raise the price. Now everybody knows the movie, the question, everybody. And so this is the last one.
And I'm Canadian, so that's like $400.
And so from now on, you don't know. You ask me a question and you don't know the answer. It's $50.
Tariffs.
You gotta go.
Okay, I gotta go. Okay, I gotta go. Nice to see you.
For another engagement, so.
What?
You still see me?
Can you guess where he's going for $20? He was the first guy to hook up with a local girl.
Carla.
We don't have to talk about it.
Yeah, his wife is Jerry.
We don't have to get personal.
Yeah.
Could we, sorry, interject for a second? We have a nice round of applause for Val.
Okay, bye guys. I don't think anybody can hear me, right? Nobody can hear me? Nate? Nobody can hear me, right? Nate?
Playing there. He's not, but he was playing, and he loved wildlife.
You know what?
And he saw a cat, and he said, "Oh." And he leaned down and petted the kid. And then he went into the hotel. Everyone in the hotel went, "Ah!" and ran because he was hitting a skunk.
And boy, did he deserve it. And he knows everything. He knows everything on this island.
I know that the hotel was smelled so terribly the next morning, it was almost uninhabitable.
Yeah. And he has his family has a house here, so he's an island, and that house was next door to Lillian Hellman's house. How many here know who Lillian Hellman was? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Lillian Hellman was probably the most famous writer in America in the 40s. And she wrote incredible plays that were Broadway hits. And she was called by another writer, Mary McCarthy. They said that Lillian Hellman was a liar. And not only was she a liar, Mary McCarthy said, but she lied when she said or rather amusing.
Oh boy.
And
I have a question for you. What's your favorite movie that you've ever done?
Oh, that's a good one.
Of my film?
Yeah, one of your favorite. Is it Mr. Holland's Opus?
That's what you want.
The actual answer to that is I love all of the films I made, with the possible exception of 2. And I'll never tell you which one.
I know.
Thank you.
Where's your
Where is it?
Where's it located?
Well, it's usually in the refrigerator. But I don't have a place for it. But that was why you asked that question. It's because when I told someone that it was in the refrigerator, they kind of went, what? And I said to myself, I don't want to brag. I don't want to tell people I have an Oscar, but I know that they'll get hungry after a while.
That's funny.
It's true. I don't lie. I never lie. You are. So, I spent more time at his mother's house, and she was great.
Oh,
And it
so
was
much
great.
fun.
Yeah.
I have a picture of him and myself sitting there with our less than year-old babies, and my grandmother's driving by on the Vineyard on the same street that you're on now.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Were you ever approached at all to do anything to do with Jaws 2? Like,
oh yes.
They didn't ask you?
Oh yes.
And it was just
That's a good answer.
I said no.
Yeah.
And they asked me again, and I said no. And then they asked me again, and I said, well, what do you think?
Yeah.
And I said, no. Why? And I said, why didn't you give us Latvia? And he said, what? I said, why didn't you give us Latvia or Estonia or Monaco or London? Why didn't you give us something? And he said, I don't understand the question. I said, it's called a bonus. Never bonus the actors in the film. And I think died, and Roy and I were the ones who were still living, and we thought, I said, David, are you telling me that you don't think that we made a material difference in the popularity of the film? No, you did. Oh my God. I said, that is why you give a bonus. And you didn't. And I think that's a disgrace. And he hung up.
Really? Really?
Wow. Wow.
And I was asked a bunch of times. And then finally, I wrote a letter to the head of production, Universal. And by this time, I was really pissed. I was angry. We all deserved it. We were paid an astoundingly small amount of money to do the work of the film. All of us, the three of us, each made $5,000 a week for 10 weeks. And the film went over and over and over, but they didn't take that into consideration. And the two producers, Dick Zanuck and David Brown, thought that I was not serious. And so I wrote a letter to the head of Universal Production, who happened to be at that moment my partner's son. And the letter was then copied, and copies of that letter were placed on the head of every department at Universal. And it said, the studio does not cooperate with Richard Dreyfuss for any reason, no matter what, under any circumstances. And that letter was placed at the front of every department at Universal.
So you never worked for anything with Universal again, is it?
Ever.
Really?
Wow.
Didn't know that.
Yeah.
Don't blame you.
And I had started at Universal. I had done TV for 10, 11 years, and I started at Universal Television, Screen Gems, and but it didn't matter.
That is shameful.
Yeah.
You guys were
good
that
man.
movie. You guys were that movie. I mean, the movie's about the three of your characters. It's not about the shark. It's about the three of you guys.
That's right.
Unreal. That is shameful. I've never heard that before.
It's called a disgrace. And so one day my partner, my ex-partner, Andy, it was his son who was head of production. Andy called me for some reason, and I said, Universal owns the rights to a film that I think we should remake. The two of us should remake it. And why don't you call your son and find out if we can get the rights? And 10 minutes later, he called back, laughing. He was laughing hysterically. And he said, your name is shit. And I found out about the copies of my letter being, and I heard that. And I said, well, golly, this is not the last time you've ever heard of this story. You'll hear it a lot.
Yeah.
And they have. And let's see. That happened at Universal, it happened at Disney, it happened at MGM. It basically was that I was blackballed. Yeah. And blackballed after the biggest success in the history of the motion picture.
but you went on and look at you.
Won an Oscar.
My God.
Youngest
I won an
Indelible.
Oscar for Universal.
I don't know. The idea of a corporation being greedy is hard to buy. God.
So I said, look, I'm just gonna tell the story. Whenever anyone asks, good, I will tell the story. And all of you who have participated in this decision will know by name that you behave as a disgrace. And I'm looking forward to that. I'm not looking forward to your changing your mind and giving me a financial bonus because you don't do that. So I said, just wait until I'm in it. And that was the beginning of my being blackballed, blacklisted, and whatever for a success. It was the biggest success in the history of the business.
Yeah.
And it stayed that success for
50 years.
Stephen and George made Indiana Jones, that made more, and Stephen and George made
Star Wars.
something else.
Star Wars. But Stephen wasn't involved. Star Wars was the one that topped the box office.
Yeah, and that was, well, Stephen partnered with George.
Oh, he did.
You showed him you won the Academy Award on a lesser budget.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so they became very wary and cautious about what they invited me to because they knew I was not kidding. And so actors really never get a chance to pay back. And so they knew that I was interested in that payback, in revenge. And I'm a double Scorpio, and I'm not kidding.
When was the last time you guys watched either Jaws or Jaws 2? And are you able to look at it because it's on TV every week? Are you able to divorce yourself from being in it and can look at it as a film? Or
No.
do you just see the background, do you see the cameras and the microphones and such?
Yeah, I mean, I have a hard time watching it as a film. Although, I saw it, Jaws on screen would be great, again.
Sure.
To see it on screen again. Because, you watch little bits and pieces of it at 10 o'clock at night or,
Right.
you're getting into bed, it's 12:30, turn on the TV, oh, shit. But, my cat loves it.
And it's gotten crazy, we do these signings sometimes and people come in with babies, 3 and 4 years old. I said, well, they haven't seen it. They go, oh, no, they've seen it many times. I said, I should call social services on that. That is crazy. I mean,
when
none
we
of-
opened this film, if any parent took their
Yeah.
child to see Jaws and he was under 12, the parents were reported. Because it was just not.
My parents took me to the drive-in at 3.
Oh my God.
And I was mesmerized.
I was
mesmerized.
I'm calling social services.
I would like to say that I think you got a raw deal and the shark is broken. And that I felt, I can't imagine how you must have felt seeing it. Because it seems like they used you for laughs and it can't really have been like that.
Well, I think the guys who set that policy would have no understanding of what actors do for a living, and they marked us all whatever. And too bad, because without actors, they got nothing.
Right.
So, and then my wife had not seen, was it that you had not seen Jaws?
No, it was Casey. It was Casey, because I saw your film first time in Soviet Union.
Yeah.
And Soviet
And then they put
I
it
came
against the
from
wall and
Soviet
shot
Union.
it.
You brought down the Iron Curtain.
Everybody, Mr. Drivers has to leave. This was not planned. This was unexpected. Richard, thank you so much.
This guy kept Jaws in everyone's consciousness.
Thank you, everybody.
Okay, hold on one second. We're doing a,
Now you have
what do you
to
think
go
about
out
the
and buy it.
CD?
Oh, okay.
So your site's up, Mr. Dreyfus. Very nice.
And everyone, richarddreyfus.net. If you're looking for some great 50th anniversary stuff autographed, check it out, richarddreyfus.net. And one more quick thing, there is a CD that is available. Jeff Kramer does a lot of work with the Tourette Association of America. And this is, you may have heard it, we featured it on our show. It's a love song for Deputy Hendricks.
Judy Pancoast wrote it. Judy, you should tell them about this.
Oh, I'm gonna tell them all right.
All right.
This has been planned for a long time.
Oh, it is. Oh my God, you're gonna sing it.
I am.
Oh my God.
Watch out.
Oh, you're right.
Ready?
Oh, Richard.
I am ready. Do you need to get out before I do this?
No.
You probably don't remember, but I've sung to you before. I'm sure you don't remember. But okay, here we go. The summer I turned 16 was the summer of 75. I saw a movie called Jaws, and my innocent heart took a dive. For Deputy Hendricks, this guy on Amity, Deputy Hendricks, his goofy charm enchanted me. I love the way he blew his whistle. I come running to throw away that Alka-Seltzer, Letty. I'll take care of you. Deputy Hendricks, you saved those kids in April Bay. Deputy Hendricks, you printed all over my heart that day. I wish that I could run my fingers through your wavy hair. Looking out to find your people, I would be right there. Oh, look at those sexy muscles. Look at that retard tan. My teenage hormones went berserk when you pounded that sign in the sand. Deputy Hendricks, when the sun shines upon your face. Deputy Hendricks, your skinny squint makes my heart race. You could call me Daisy, baby. I'll call you Jeff sometimes. Let's get drunk and fool around. Then I'll stop making these foolish rhymes. For Deputy Hendricks. Deputy Hendricks.
maybe I should call you Jeff. I don't know.
Sometimes. Call me whatever you want. Thank you.
Deputy Hendricks. I love a man in uniform. I got this love letter, but I can't tell if it's signed by Lenny or Jeff, because the printing. And that's it. You take it to the end.
What's the matter with my printing? It clearly says my name, you know.
This is my life's dream, you know. I've been losing sleep over this. It's just so talking.
Deputy Hendricks.
I have a question. Who owes who $50 now?
So we have CDs available. Jeff will sign them. Like I said, the money goes for a great cause. And we can do it quickly here if you want to line up. Everybody else, thank you so much for coming by. This was 5 years in the making.
Yeah.